Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley here in Washington, D.C. So the State of the Union had nothing about Copenhagen, really, and nothing about Google China. Good. Time to back off on those, Obama. But it did have this idea about nuclear energy and some offshore drilling. And, of course, offshore drilling, why not? Of course. Makes a lot of sense. Don't dump that possibility. Instead, use it indeed as a means to gather support because it's intelligible and popular, and you can use that to cut the ground out from under the green fanatics, the radical environmentalists, and those who are just against economic development. You can use it as a kind of a heuristic teaching tool. So anybody who's against that is obviously crazy in today's world, and indeed they are crazy. Now, at the same time, we've got Geithner being embraced by Obama at the beginning of this session. We've got Bernanke, but let's do a little bit more on Geithner first. The hearings on the 27th, we've got a pounding of Geithner. Congressman John Mica, the ranking member of the committee, Republican from Florida, says to Geithner, you are either incompetent on the job or you are not doing your job and you knew what was taking place and tried to conceal it. That's grounds for your removal. Fire him. Stephen Lynch, Democrat of Massachusetts, it stinks to high heaven what happened here. I don't like the obfuscation. It makes me doubt your commitment to the American people. This guy also says, Lynch says, your commitment to Goldman Sachs trumps your commitment to the American people. Micah, it's stretched credulity. It doesn't make any sense. When you're being confirmed, a lot of controversy supported the fact you don't pay your taxes. You gave lame excuses then, and you're giving lame excuses now. Ken Jaworski, the chairman, Democrat of Pennsylvania, we have come to bury Caesar, not to praise him, and you're Caesar. Well, he's not quite Caesar. He's one of his minions. So he gets pounded, and he also gets pounded by some of these others. Jim Jordan, Republican of Ohio, you said give $700 billion of taxpayer money. I did not do that, Geithner said. I'm saying the government, says Jordan, your government, your President Bush, Paulson, at the time. Geithner claimed that after arranging the AIG bailout as head of the New York Fed, he had had nothing to do with the efforts to conceal from the public the huge payments the government made to Wall Street giants such as Goldman Sachs that were AIG counterparties. But Geithner's claim and his insistence that he had nothing to do with AIG after being told he was going to be Obama's Secretary of the Treasury back in November of 2008, this was undermined, and it was perjury by Geithner, undermined by evidence the committee uncovered during including a damning March 2009 email written by Geithner. Elijah Cummings, Democrat of Maryland, says, remember, it's us Democrats. We are the ones who wanted this hearing. The American people are concerned that a lot is being done for Wall Street, but not enough being done for Main Street. Do you understand that? Marcy Kaptur, a Democrat of Ohio, one of the better ones. You nationalized AIG and let the bank creditors off the hook. Lynn Westmoreland, Republican of Georgia, it was obvious that the AIG deal is a bad deal for taxpayers. And that's all that is very interesting. That would have been the time. Smart politician, somebody like Franklin D. Roosevelt, who did this several times, would say, okay, Geithner, that's it. You're finished. Now, you can keep Geithner a little bit longer as a kind of lightning rod to absorb criticism that would otherwise be directed at you. And I think that's the only thing that's holding Geithner up, is that he's taken the flack that otherwise would go directly to Barkey. So Barkey wants to keep him for that reason. But still, it's time to dump Geithner. Geithner must go. During this past week, my website, tarpley.net, pioneered a campaign to stop Bernanke. We had an article. It became clear last Sunday that the Bernanke nomination was in real trouble because you had Dorgan, Feingold, and Boxer among the Democrats, along with Sanders, Independent, and Bunning, and quite a few others, saying that they could not support Bernanke. So we organized essentially a letter-writing campaign. So that was posted on Sunday night. There was a letter on my website, which is still there, which you can could send and can send to your senator, demanding that Bernanke be defeated and that they find somebody who would be the right person to superintend the transition of the Federal Reserve to a Bureau of the Treasury. In other words, to run the Federal Reserve during the process of nationalization. Yes, the politicization of the Federal Reserve. That's what you want. Those economic questions, interest rate questions are not technical questions. They're not technical questions of economics. They are the most political questions of them all. You cannot take that entire area of politics, the whole area of economic policy, or large parts of it, ripped out of the hands of the legal constitutional government. You put it into the hands of these unelected, faceless cliques of unaccountable bankers, predatory bankers, rip-off artists, asset strippers, and the rest of them. They hide behind a facade of academic economics, which is absolutely insane. It's the most corrupt and discredited and bankrupt of all the disciplines. Economics basically says whatever the reactionary power structure wants at any given moment over decades. Time to nationalize the Fed, so keep that up. But also Bernanke. Now let's look at Helicopter Ben now. You can see there. It became clear on the weekend that Helicopter Ben was in real trouble. So that's the time when you see that kind of an opportunity, it's time to mobilize. Now, the vote was yesterday. Unfortunately, Helicopter Ben did get through. On the cloture vote, it was 77 to 23. 77 to 23. They needed 60 votes on that, thanks to Bunning, Republican of Kentucky, and Bernie Sanders, independent socialist of Vermont. Showing that there is a bipartisan opposition to Helicopter Ben. 77 to 23 on the cloture. And then on the actual vote, where he only needed 50, it was 70 to 30. Now, this is the worst result for any Fed chairman in history. Nobody has ever had that many votes against him. Bernanke is now politically wounded. He comes in under a cloud. If he had any honor, he'd resign. He'd say, that's not enough for me. I'm sorry, 30 negative votes is too much for me. I can't do my job. Bernanke, if you're so concerned about having it politicized, you should resign because your presence is making it politicized, if that's the consideration. Of course, let me hasten to underline, I, Tarpley, am in favor of the politicization. I want it politicized totally. I want it to the point where the money supply, the interest rates, and the approved categories of lending are politicized to the point where the House votes them, the Senate votes them, and the President has to sign them, all in the light of day. The last time around, Volcker got 16 negative votes, so Bernanke got almost twice as many as Volcker in the mid-1980s. Back in a minute on World Crisis Radio.